he was engaged in that particular assignment, so that is the reason of his delay. There isn't any other reason as to why that has been accepted by the chair. Yes, Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, sorry if I'm seen to be slowing the House, but I find it difficult to understand, probably the clerks can guide us, under what standing order do we wait for a minister? Mr. Speaker, we've been around for a while. We've never seen a situation whereby business of the House is being stood down so as to wait for a minister. And even if we are going to do it, Mr. Speaker, could you tell us, are we suspending the House?
Senator Boni, I had already indicated that we are calling the next order to deal with the motion for purposes of making sure that the business of the House is not suspended. Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat what my colleagues have said. With all tremendous respect, I know you have power to rearrange the order papers by the standing orders. But, you know, how do we look before Kenyans if we can wait for a cabinet secretary? You know, it is not, Mr. Speaker, can you rule that the CS should appear in next possible sitting so that we can proceed with other matters, Mr. Speaker? Because it's unmatched. I am not aware, you are talking about the issue of leaking roof in JKI, the issue of roads that have been swept away by floods. You know, these are issues that we needed the Cabinet Secretary Murkomen to come and clarify on what the ministry is putting interventions of floodings in the country. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are arguing is just for neatness of the House. Since now you have rearranged the order paper, which you have powers to as per the standing order, can you direct that? Because if Senate becomes the first parliament, in fact, parliament does not even wait for a president. If we wait for a cabinet minister by the name Murkomen, it will be a national embarrassment plus what is happening in JKI of leaking terminal roofs, Mr. Speaker. So what I request with out of respect, and I know you are a gentleman, you are a good man, allow the House to proceed, advise the SBC, because you are a learned senior counsel, advise the ISPC that out of the neatness and respect and tradition of this House, let the minister be allowed to appear at a later date. It will be neater. Then we proceed with other matters. There is extension of ad hoc committee, Mr. Speaker, ad hoc committee by Senator Chute. There is the issue of debate of presidential State of the Nation address, SONA, to be addressed, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to repeat what I have said. There are only two instances that you can fail to appear before Parliament. When you are only attending a cabinet meeting, Mr. Speaker. We shall not allow the CS Murkomen to take this House for granted. He was here. He knows the value of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have received so many complaints. Even Chute will tell you in Marsabit, Mogadishu roads in northern Kenya, the roads have been swept away, Mr. Speaker, by floods. So, Mr. Speaker, can you rule that we allow the CS to go and see those roads and leaking in roofs in JKI, then we give him a later day next week, then we proceed with the matters of the House. Considering, Mr. Speaker, our agenda is heavy. Mr. Speaker, please properly guide the House for the benefit of all of us, Mr. Speaker, and so that at least some of us can move with other issues that is on the order paper.
Senator Cherargei, Senator Boni, you are aware that under Standing Order 45-2, the chair has got the mandate to reorganize the order paper and the business of the House for the convenience of the Senate. And it is on this provision of this standing order that we made those rearrangements. But in view of what you have said, I will, as I've already stated, direct that Senator Chute proceeds with this motion, and for the neatness of the House, make relevant directives as regards the appearances of the cabinet secretaries before the House. Senator Chute, proceed to prosecute your motion. Senator Chute, proceed to prosecute your motion on the extension of time for the compensation of the Kenya victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move this motion today on the extension of the mandate of the ad hoc committee on the compensation to the Kenya victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi on behalf of the chairperson. Mr. Speaker, that aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27 June 2023, the Senate resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation to the Kenyan victims of 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi and report back to the House within 3 months of its establishment. Mr. Speaker, realizing that the extension period of 45 days of the tenure of the ad hoc committee lapsed on 10th November 2023, yet the committee has a lot of work to execute to conclude in conducting the inquiry. Mr. Speaker, now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee for a further period of 100 days from 10th November 2023 to enable the committee to finalize and table its report in the Senate on or before 18th February 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you are aware, since its establishment, the committee has carried out various activities pertaining to its mandate. As a snapshot, the committee has held a number of meetings in which it transacted the following key businesses. A, Mr. Speaker, consideration of preliminary report from the law firm in the US that has been litigating on the compensation of the victims by the USA government. B, meeting with the victims of bomb blast tragedy and their representatives. C, Mr. Speaker, attended the bomb blast victim prayer day held on Saturday, 5th August 2023, and attended the 25th commemoration of the bomb blast held on 7th August 2023. E, conducted a public hearing. F, meeting with the advocates who have represented the bomb blast all through. Meeting with the National Council for Persons with Disability. H, meeting with the Ministry of Health. I, meeting with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. J, meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. K, meeting with the Ministry of Interior and National Administration. Mr. Speaker, all the above-mentioned activities have been crucial for the committee as they have provided invaluable insights that will enable the committee to fulfill its mandate.
I hope you're closing because it's just as procedural motions in Tachute.
Sorry.
I don't think it will have a lot of issues that would warrant you to run us through all that.
Say that again.
I'm saying this
Yes.
is a mere procedural motion which you just can read it out, get somebody to second so that we progress, because I believe this House will not have much of an issue as regards extension of time.
Thank you very much. Let me, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, let me say, before inviting someone to second, it has been 25 years, Mr. Speaker. The victims are waiting for compensation, and we've done a lot. We've, in fact, met with the Prime Cabinet Secretary about 3 weeks ago, We are intending to meet with the embassy, American embassy, anytime very soon. We are also intending very soon to visit the United States of America to convince or lobby for the Senate in America to pass a law for the compensation of the 1998 victims. We are seeking 100 days more time, and I now ask Senator Cheptumo to second this motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be brief. Mr. Speaker, I serve in this committee also as a member with my neighbor here. Mr. Speaker, there is indeed compelling reasons and justification for this motion of extension of time. Mr. Speaker, as happily prosecuted by the mover, several Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, suffered a great deal during the bomb blast in 1998. Several Kenyans died, and many of them, Mr. Speaker, were maimed. And 25 years down the line, Mr. Speaker, they have not been compensated. Mr. Speaker, it should be known that the suffering Kenyans are going through for that period of time arose out of a bombing by terrorists, not because they were fighting the Kenyan population or the Kenyan government, but it was an incident arising, targeting the United States of America embassy, Mr. Speaker. So these Kenyans suffered because of a situation that was existing between the terrorists and the American government. And so, Mr. Speaker, and for 25 years, really, there has been no attention given to these Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, this House, therefore, should be recognized and appreciated, Mr. Speaker, because for the first time, this House now has taken the step to seek compensation. And Mr. Speaker, I can assure you as a member of this committee that, as said by my colleague here, we've had meetings with many stakeholders. But Mr. Speaker, I want to escalate this conversation to the United States of America, to engage the Senate and other stakeholders, the embassy of the United States of America in Kenya, so that, Mr. Speaker, then we move to the final stage of this process. If we can only do it, Mr. Speaker, if we are given time. So I want to support and request the House, Mr. Speaker, to approve this request so that, Mr. Speaker, the committee, therefore, will finalize. Within 45 days, we are able to conclude and report back to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support. 100 days, Mr. Speaker, sorry.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that aware at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27 June 2023, the Senate resolves to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation to the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi and report back to the House within 3 months of its establishment, realizing that the extension period of 45 days of the tenure of the ad hoc committee lapsed on 10th of November 2023, yet the committee has a lot of work to execute to conclude in conducting the inquiry. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee for a further period of 100 days from 10th November 2023 to enable the committee to finalize and table its report in the Senate on or before 18th February 2024. Now, Honorable Senators, I can see from the dashboard a good number of you seeking, I believe, to debate on this particular motion. And as I directed earlier on, the mover of the motion, this is just a procedural motion. I believe we will not take a lot of time to debate on this one, and we should be able to close on this in the shortest time possible. So I want to urge members. I will ask only 3 members to speak to this one so that we can move on to the next order paper. I believe Senator Mugatana.
Mr. Speaker, I will follow your guidance and be very brief. Mr. Speaker, I am grudgingly supporting the extension. I am grudgingly supporting because they have already come before this House for extension of their mandate before. And I've been listening carefully to the mover and the seconder to give us a reason, a solid reason why they need another extension of their mandate. And Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear any except that there is an unfinished work. But I would want to put my faith in the honorable gentlemen like Cheptumo, like Senator Chute, the leader of that team, Mama Agnes Kavindu. These are people that I believe are very honorable members who have distinguished themselves in various places we have worked with them. But with this caution, Mr. Speaker, that let them finish the work. Ad hoc committees are not supposed to stay in perpetuity. They should go, finalize the job, come back, give us a report, we finish with this matter. Because the same people who are waiting for that report, the same people they are fighting for are the same people who are going to tell them, you are taking too long, you're not doing anything, you are just like the other people. And then Senate will come under another fresh attack. So we are asking them that may this be the last extension. Let them not come back again. Let them just finish the work and give us a report. So because they are good men there, Mr. Speaker, I will support the motion, but grudgingly, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Joyce.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to really support my one and only EPO Chair, National Coalition, Mheshimiwa Chute. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that this ad hoc committee, I know, Honorable Speaker, I am one of the interested parties, and I have been following on a number of activities that they have been undertaking. This is one of the ad hoc that involves a number of stakeholders in terms of really finding out on how best they can address the issue of these victims, Honorable Speaker. So allow me, Honorable Speaker, to really agree with them in terms of extensions of time, because I have said it involves a number of ministries and even outside the country. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, they have a goodwill of the leadership of this country. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, they have to do the due diligence in a number of activities that it is involved. And I would want to request, because this is just a procedural motion, Honorable Speaker, that we really support and give them time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Beatrice Ogola.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support this motion and to appeal to this Honorable House to grant the ad hoc committee the 100 days that have been requested for an extension. Honorable Speaker, I'm also a member of this committee, and we have been looking at the compensation on a number of issues on loss of lives. And Honorable Speaker, this is loss of life of over 200 Kenyans that lost their lives on that day. Honorable Speaker, in the committee, we have been meeting different Kenyans from all over the country. As you notice, Honorable Speaker, that this was an happening that was most unfortunate, that Kenyans lost their lives, a number of them in the course of their duties. A number of them are Kenyans who are just working in adjacent buildings to the American embassy. And a number of Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, were Kenyans that were going about their lives, their daily lives that were passing by the road. And this happened to happen as they were passing along the bomb blast site. Honorable Speaker, apart from the loss of over 200 people, we have been dealing with listening to over 5,000 Kenyans that had massive injuries. Mr. Speaker, sir, some of them are in so much deplorable situations. A number of them are blind. A number of them lost their limbs. A number of them suffer long-term medical conditions. And the reason why we have come to ask for an extension is that the attention of this committee has been so massive. Each time we are meeting the stakeholders, Honorable Speaker, it is so overwhelming because we have to listen to all of them. And Honorable Speaker, I think they deserve the listening from this committee of the Senate. Honorable Speaker, we have also been dealing with, apart from loss of life and the massive injuries that were caused, we are also looking at the compensation of loss of opportunities. In our sitting, Honorable Speaker, sometimes you have to listen to children that dropped out of school because their parents died out of this happening. And so, Honorable Speaker, we ask that the extension may be granted so that we give due diligence to Kenyans who need the attention of the committee. And Honorable Speaker, this bomb blast happening that we are dealing with is also going to set a precedent for other happenings that have occurred in this country. We had, after that, the Westgate, the Garissa technical school bombing, we have the Dusit. And Honorable Speaker, if this is handled well and within the time that we are asking for, this will also give a solution to some of those happenings that have had in this country. Honorable Speaker, we are yet also to exhaust our meetings.
Beatrice, I had given directives earlier on that this is a procedural motion. Let's limit our arguments in support of the motion.
Thank you.
I want to ask you to end at that point so that we progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, I'm well guided, and so as I end, I want to support the motion and to appeal to the House to support the extension of the time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Lastly, Senator John Kinyua.
Asante Bwana Spika. Kwanzia mwanzo nasema ya kwamba naunga mkono kuongeza muda wa kamati hii ya dharura kwa siku 100. Bwana Spika, nimeangalia na nikaona shughuli ambazo wamekuwa wakiziangazia Bwana Spika. Wamekutana Bwana Spika na Wizara ya Afya, Wizara ya Mambo ya Masuala ya Nje, na hata wamekutana na Wizara ya Mambo za Kindani Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, lakini ni vizuri tuseme ya kwamba muda huu ambao wameuliza Bwana Spika, wautumie vizuri, wasije tena kuja hapa kusema wangetaka ongezewe siku Bwana Spika, kwa sababu mambo waliyofanya wamewafanya na zaidi ya siku 165 Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, haya mambo machache ambayo yamebaki wanayotaka siku 100 Bwana Spika, najua inawezekana Bwana Spika, kwa sababu wanasema wanataka kukutana na mkuu wa sheria, wanataka kukutana Bwana Spika na balozi wa nchi ya Marekani Bwana Spika. Vile vile Bwana Spika, wanataka kutembelea nchi ya Amerika ndio waweze kwenda kukutana na seneti ya Amerika Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo hizo siku 100 zitatosha Bwana Spika, ndio waweze kushughulikia Wakenya ambao waliadhiriwa, na vile vile wapate fidia wale ambao tayari walikufa, wale watu wanaotajwa zaidi ya watu 200 Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo nataka kuwapongeza hii kamati kwa kazi nzuri wanayofanya, lakini Bwana Spika, wasiongeze siku kupita hizo siku 100 ambazo ameitisha, kwa sababu ni mambo machache sana yaliyobaki, Bwana Spika, na hatutakataa kwa sababu, Bwana Spika, tayari wamemkula ng'ombe, iliyobaki ni mkia, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo hizo siku 100 zitabaki, waweze kumaliza mkia na waweze kuleta ripoti na Wakenya wetu waweze kushughulikiwa. Bwana Spika, na kubali na naunga mkono. Asante, Bwana Spika.
Thank you. Senator John Methu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to also grudgingly support the extension of time for this committee. And I'm not persuaded by the reasons that were given by Senator Mungatana, of course, because his own committee sought extension 4 times. During the Shakahola,
Senator Mungatana, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. I wanted the Honorable Senator Methu to actually be factual. We only sought extension once, not 4 times. If 4 times, you would not have accepted, surely. It's not possible. So just be focused.
Make sure your contributions are
okay, very well. Then he sought extension 1 time. So, Honorable Speaker, as I support, I actually have been following up on this particular matter that is being dealt by the Senator Agnes Kavindu-led committee. And I've seen the strides that they have made, and I actually feel that they require a little more time. And I hope, just as the Senator for Laikipia said, this shall be the last extension that they are seeking, so they can be able to fundraise on all the stakeholders that they require to look at, and also finalize on the report, so that as a House we can get a conclusive report. I support, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Senators, that brings us to the end of the contributions by the members on this particular motion, and I make a determination that this is a matter that does not affect counties, and I now put the question that Honorable Senators are aware that the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27th June 2023, Senator Joyce, you may take your seat. Proceed. Methu, take your seat as well. Honorable Senators are aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27 June 2023, the Senate resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation to the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi and report back to the House within 3 months of its establishment, realizing that the extension period of 45 days of the tenure of the ad hoc committee lapsed on 10th November 2023, yet the committee has a lot of ad hoc committee for a further period of 100 days from 10th November 2023 to enable the committee to finalize and table its report in the Senate on or before 18th of February 2024. Honorable members, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Clerk, you may call the next order.
Order number 8, motion, debate on the President's address to Parliament, second day.
Honorable members, I believe there was no one who was left out in the last session unless right, I am notified that Senator Ali Roba had concluded on his debate on the speech, and I will invite Senator Cherargei Samson to proceed from there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. From the onset, I want to thank you for fast-tracking the House business despite the earlier hiccups. And you know, I don't have a doubt in your ability, because when things were thick, you represented me in court those days when we were in trenches of fighting to ensure Kenya Kwanza wins. And out of my blessings, you went on and become the senator of Bomet. So, Mr. Speaker, another issue I wanted to bring to the attention of the House, I know there will be proper communication, is I want to thank the courts of law. Courts of law, I don't know what is wrong. Is it the blessings or you becoming the senator?
Point of order from Senator Kinyua.
Mr. Speaker, I listened to the most sought lawyer in town, Senator Cherargei, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, does he insinuate, because Senator Yusuf Haji, who is also who sits in the Speaker's panel, because he did not represent him when he was in trenches, is not a good speaker, Mr. Speaker?
Well, what's your point of order, Senator Boni?
Mr. Speaker, did you hear the senator of Nandi say that without his blessings, you would not be here today? Mr. Speaker, not using exactly the same words, but words to that effect. Mr. Speaker, I know him as a distinguished senator, an outstanding legal mind, but with no religious... Mr. Speaker, can a man who has no track record of even preaching once, even to a Sunday school, have the capacity to bless the distinguished senator of Bomet?
Senator Cherargei, you may clarify the point of order by Senator Kinyua in terms of the insinuation that you made, as well as the comments and the point of intervention by Senator Halwale. Senator Cheptumo, just hold, let's deal with that.
Mr. Speaker, I said it's one of the blessings. Some of the people who gave you blessings. Number two, I'm not saying other panelists. Yes, and other panelists are good people, even the substantive speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, in our Kalenjin community, I come from the Nandi where Koitalel Samoy was there. You remember when we took President William Ruto for blessings by the Koitalel and Tala elders, his roads were open, and he's now the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I hope my time is frozen.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, you know, I don't know whether it will still be relevant, because I heard my colleague here referring to a member here as Yusuf Haji. Do we have a senator by that name, Mr. Speaker?
I let that pass. Cherargei, proceed.
He's the son of our former senator, but he's now Senator Abdullaji. So, Speaker, secondly, I want to bring to the attention of the House, as I debate this, that one of the hallmarks in this House is where we amended the standing orders to allow cabinet secretaries to appear, and we sat in parliamentary group, and we had the blessings of the president. I'm happy, and I want to congratulate courts of law. They have dismissed a petition of our colleagues in the minority side, the Azimio senators, as lacking merit. And I am happy that finally they have come back to the House, because whenever we question the cabinet secretaries, our colleagues in the minority side have not been able to attend because they had a petition in court. I'm happy that matter is settled, and the courts dismissed the petition that it does not have merit. So I hope we shall not be taking matters to court that are frivolous or do not have a merit. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the President, because as per the tradition and Constitution, Mr. Speaker, the President has done tremendously well. Despite the challenges, Mr. Speaker, you know the economy was in ICU, Mr. Speaker, because of many challenges. All of us know that the public debt is way above 10 trillion Kenyan shillings. We know there was issues of extrajudicial killings, which the president came and stopped. We know there were many challenges that were economically, Mr. Speaker, that were unfortunate. But I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, you know, in people who deal with the business, the fact that there is going concern and you are able to pay your credit, you are doing very well. Kenya has not defaulted in terms of payment of the credit and loans internationally, Mr. Speaker. And I know the change on the Speaker's seat. Mr. Speaker, and therefore it is very important that a house we must give, because where our economy was, Mr. Speaker, is at the cliff where we call near Kisumu, Shao Morobi, where it was almost going down the cliff, Mr. Speaker, in a place called Shao Morobi, where when old men and women, Mr. Speaker, in my community, so that the people can get the context, is after getting very old, they would used to say, death has forgotten us. So they used to go to a place in Nandi called Shao Morobi and throw themselves down, so that because they had realized they had gotten too old until death had forgotten. So that is the stage where economy had reached. Number two, I want to thank the president because we demand the independence of judiciary. I'm happy there has been additional 3 billion that has been given to judiciary, Mr. Speaker. This is important. What we demand of judiciary is independence, fairness, firmness, and transparency, Mr. Speaker. We don't want to see justice being sold like njugu and sweets on the street, Mr. Speaker. We want to see the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, and other judges. Mr. Speaker, you know, in this country, we risk reducing justice to the highest bidder. And it is very unfortunate. I want to challenge because, Mr. Speaker, judiciary should not be a bastion or a dent of corruption where court orders, Mr. Speaker, are being issued like tissue papers on the streets, Mr. Speaker. We must, as a country, if we give more resources, Mr. Speaker, to judiciary, they must stand with the truth and justice. Just the way our holy books, Quran and the Bible and other religious books talk of, Mr. Speaker. So we need judiciary to be held accountable, Mr. Speaker. They must be. We need judiciary, Mr. Speaker, to push for justice of the local people. Mr. Speaker, how do you explain there are cases that are in judiciary? I know we have backlog of cases around 500,000 cases every year being filed by Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. But how can Chief Justice Martha Koome and judiciary explain to the country, Mr. Speaker? And in fact, in future, we should be calling state of address of judiciary, because it's an independent arm of government, to tell us what they are doing, Mr. Speaker. Because how do you have a court case which is 10 years, 5 years old? Some of them are succession matters that can be determined on a matter of technicality and procedure, Mr. Speaker. So in as much as there is goodwill from the President, the Judicial Service Commission also must rein on rogue judicial officers. Mr. Speaker, I've been the biggest defender of judiciary. In fact, I brought a statement when Salaries and Remuneration Commission wanted to reduce the salaries and emoluments of judiciary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they didn't, I am a supporter of judiciary, but we must call out corruption in judiciary, Mr. Speaker. And I like Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, Mr. Speaker, senior counsel, who has been consistent in calling out judiciary corruption. And we don't need to institutionalize corruption, Mr. Speaker. Those judges who had been caught participating in corruption, and magistrates and judicial officers, they must be fired. Not only fired, they must be subjected to judicial process so that we get rid and clean judiciary, Mr. Speaker, so that we don't see ending. And Mr. Speaker, and I think, addition to that, Mr. Speaker, the other issue is the issue of farmers. I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the President. Mr. Speaker, when he took over government, the fertilizer cost was 7,000 shillings. In last planting season, we bought at 3,500. Now, Mr. Speaker, we are buying fertilizer to 2,500, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and this fertilizer will be given to farmers of maize, farmers of tea, coffee, sugarcane, and all the farmers, this subsidized fertilizer, through the National Cereals and Produce Board. I want to thank the Minister of Agriculture, Senator Mithika Linturi, for spearheading distribution of subsidized fertilizer, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my only challenge, I don't know other counties, but in Nandi, you know, Nandi, we are at autopilot. The management of county government of Nandi is autopilot. Because in Nandi, after getting the subsidy program, I expected the Nandi county governor and the county government, Mr. Sang, to do what we call last mile distribution of fertilizer, so that the fertilizer, they don't need to go to Lesos NCPP depot, or Mosoriat NCPP depot, or Celia NCPP depot, or Kobuja NCPP depot. So, Speaker, we needed county government of Nandi to do what we call last mile distribution of fertilizer, so that it becomes easy for farmers and save transport costs, noting that the cost of fuel is quite high, Mr. Speaker. So, and I want to thank the President. We now have dryers, maize dryers now. I want to inform farmers from where we come across the country, because we harvested when it was raining, Mr. Speaker, and to avoid the issue of aflatoxin, the dryers have been provided at 70 shillings from 300 shillings per bag, Mr. Speaker. There are mobile dryers and others, Mr. Speaker. So on the sector of agriculture, Mr. Speaker, finally, on the issue of agriculture, I want to thank the President and also the Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, because he has been reading the reforms in the coffee sector, in the tea sector, Mr. Speaker, and he has been reading reforms in the milk sector, Mr. Speaker. One of the issue of disappointment, Mr. Speaker, and I know the President is watching and government, is we have a problem because 1 liter of milk has fallen down to 32 shillings per liter, Mr. Speaker. We want at least 50 shillings of milk per liter so that farmers can get value. Mr. Speaker, I want to, and in fact, even on the coffee cherry fund, I want to request, and I know His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua on the reforms of coffee sector should ensure through coffee cherry fund, Mr. Speaker, that all counties got it. In the last session, and we sat with you in the last session, we got 10 billion shillings through coffee cherry fund, but Nandi did not get it. Yet we have coffee. I went to Kaberer Farmers Cooperative Society. I went to Kipsele, Mr. Speaker, Kipsele Cooperative Society in Tindred. There are many cooperative societies in Tindred, up to Soba, all over Tindred. Almost the entire of Nandi is growing coffee. We want in this coffee cherry fund, Nandi County to be included, and I want to thank the government for increasing coffee, 1 kilo of coffee, from 20 shillings to 80 shillings. And I want to continue encouraging Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua to continue facing on the coffee and agricultural sector cartels who continue to threaten, Mr. Speaker, our farmers. And he should not fear, he should fear nothing. But Mr. Speaker, as a Christian, they always say, fear those who kill the soul, but don't fear who kill the body, Mr. Speaker. So I hope those reforms that the Deputy President will carry on in the agricultural sector, who has the blessings of the President, we shall be able to get value. Mr. Speaker, another issue is sugarcane. And Senator Eddy should be excited, Mr. Speaker, because the government has waived 117 billion to sugar factories that are owned by government. This will give a new lease of life, Mr. Speaker, to Mumias, to Chemelil, to Nzoia Sugar, all the sugar sector. 117 billion. And most of those regions, Mr. Speaker, are occupied by Azimio supporters. So you can see the President is non-discriminative in giving development across the country, Mr. Speaker. And then 1.07 billion will be paid to farmers of sugarcane. I know that Christmas will come early from the people from those regions, Mr. Speaker. I want to encourage them to use that 1.07 billion being paid to farmers to advance their planting. I don't want to see them adding more wives, adding more children, Mr. Speaker, or buying new toys or new cars or anything, Mr. Speaker, but be used in that aspect, Mr. Speaker. So on the agricultural front, because I just wanted to summarize on the agricultural front, Mr. Speaker, that is very important, and as farmers, we are very grateful to what they plan. And for us, Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage, even on our side, both minority and majority side, please find time to read our manifesto. I've always seen people commenting on issues where they have not read our manifesto. The plan is very clear. It's about the people. And finally, on the implementation on the issue of fishing landing site, Mr. Speaker, we need to ensure that there are fishing landing sites, like in Nyanza and coast regions. These are areas that voted against William Ruto in 2022 general election, Mr. Speaker. But these are the areas that the President has not in any way discriminated in terms of development. As we talk, Nyanza and coastal regions are getting fishing landing site, which shows the President is not discriminative to any region in terms of the... Mr. Speaker, finally on agriculture is on the issue of post-harvest. I want to ask you, when you go to Nyandarua, where our brother comes from, we normally lose, even in my county, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of milk, what we call milk clot. We don't want to see when there's milk clot or ndengu from Machakos or Kitui, or potatoes from Nyandarua and other areas, or milk from Nandi and other areas. We want to ensure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Hustler Fund, I want to continue to encourage Kenyans to use this revolutionary for all of us, Mr. Speaker. We must be ready as a country to use the Hustler Fund and be ready to ensure saving. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of NHIF, we agree with the President that the reforms in the NHIF sector or universal health coverage should be taken at top notch. I want to thank President for community health promoters, so that, you know, Mr. Speaker, apart from food, the next highest spending item of any family is on the issue of health care. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank, because now you'll have a health promoter coming to your house. They ensure they PMI you. They ensure, Mr. Speaker, so that you are able, Mr. Speaker, to live a good life, Mr. Speaker. And there is a song reggae talks about, there is, I think, a famous singer, I'm forgetting the name, he sung about, imagine if things were this good. That's a reggae song, Mr. Speaker. For those people who like listening to the reggae, Mr. Speaker, they can agree that imagine good things will be with Kenya Kwanza government led by William Ruto, Mr. Speaker. And transforming education, Mr. Speaker, because I can see my time is up. Let us continue transforming education. We want to see CBC programs being quickly addressed, Mr. Speaker. The digitization of government, finally, I want to thank Professor Kithure Kindiki, and for the comfort of the House, the Ministry of Interior, led by Professor Kithure Kindiki, has revoked licenses on the issue of charges on IDs, birth certificates, death certificates. People who are coming, when you go and get married outside the country, come with your children, Mr. Speaker. These things have continued to be reviewed, Mr. Speaker, going into the future. So I want to thank the Ministry of Interior for revoking that Gazette notice, so that the ordinary Kenyans can get services at affordable rate, Mr. Speaker. And you know, Mr. Speaker, you cannot levy tax without public participation and without parliamentary approval. I agree with Professor Kithure Kindiki that public participation should be done going into the future. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask Kenyans to give time to President William Ruto. In the next 1 year, this country will be a land, will be like Canaan, land of honey and milk, where every Kenyan will be able to afford a decent meal, where every Kenyan will be able to take their children to school, where every Kenyan will go, Mr. Speaker. Finally, I want to appeal to cabinet secretaries and senior government officials. Let them stop doing politics. The president has given them opportunity to serve the nation. Let them serve the nation. Politics for politicians. If you are a cabinet secretary, if you are a senior civil servant, stick to your lane and deliver. If you are given to do roads, do roads. Don't go and launch footballs in some funny areas, Mr. Speaker. So I want to challenge the cabinet secretaries and senior government officials, assist the president in delivering this agenda going into the future, Mr. Speaker, so that as a country, we can be able to move forward. Because the president has given us the direction, Mr. Speaker, so that we are given a certain direction, Mr. Speaker. We don't want to sing the song, I think it was by Lucky Dube. When you look outside the window, do you see anything to smile about? We don't want to listen to that song. We want, when you look outside the window, to paraphrase the reggae song, Mr. Speaker, you see everything to smile about. Mr. Speaker, I congratulate the president and I support the motion.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Eddie Okech.
Don't start interruptions here. Mr. Speaker, it is with really a lot of humility that I even get a chance to, just comment, pass a few comments on the president's speech, which is a requirement of him under the Constitution, Article 132 of our Constitution. I think this will be the second time that we as a House are reflecting on the speech of the president. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot reflect on this speech without recognizing that the first speech was a promise speech, so that when the president was going to address the country in the second speech, then it goes without saying that it was a scorecard on the things that the president did promise on, which I am glad that the Senator of Nandi has actually encapsulated that as an issue of the manifesto. And Mr. Speaker, that manifesto had very specific very, very specific milestones and agenda that was sold to this nation, which was reiterated when the president gave his first speech to Parliament. I'm glad to see that in line 7 of his speech, Mr. Speaker, the president started attempting to give the nation apology for not being able to meet those promises. Because in that line, Mr. Speaker, the president gives a very clear excuse of why these particular issues have not been met. He says in his own mouth that in our plan, we identified 3 primary challenges: external shocks, physical distress, and structural imbalances that heavily strained our economy, causing nationwide difficulty. And this becomes the excuse, the mischief of excuse, so that he can be able to indicate to the country why the country is experiencing an almost economic meltdown. And you know, it's surprising, Mr. Speaker, when every speaker who has stood before this House, including some of the departmental heads, Mr. Speaker, stand and they've got all different reasons as to why the economy is not working. Senator Cherargei has stood here and also intimated some of them. Yesterday I saw here, Mr. Speaker, when the whip was moving this motion, saying very well that the reason as to why the dollar has gone higher is because Americans, the American citizens, were given dollars so that they could keep. I mean, Mr. Speaker, as that was happening in this House, Mr. Speaker, in the other House, the central bank governor was appearing in that House. Ask the same question. They are working for the same government. Ask the same question. The central bank governor said that the reason why the dollar is struggling, Mr. Speaker, is because there are no tourists coming to Kenya. So we have got 3 different people in the same government not understanding why we as a country are having a problem with the dollar. And Mr. Speaker, this kind of confusion in this regime that also reflects on the president's speech is an important one to assess, because in every single bit of the promises that the president gave, there is different numbers, different excuses that are not in line with what Kenyans are speaking. Let me start with the Speaker with the issue of education. Mr. Speaker, as the president was reaffirming his commitment to education, as we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, our kids in university, the students in the universities, in nearly all the universities, haven't received their money in help, and even if it was a grant, they haven't received them to an extent that children from Nandi are sleeping in verandas without even food. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the issue of secondary school education, Mr. Speaker.
One moment, Eddie. What is your point of order, Senator Cherargei?
You know, Mr. Speaker, Senator Eddie should have learned standing order number 105 on responsibility of facts. Higher Education's Loan Board was released 2 weeks ago. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, with tremendous respect to my young brother, to mislead the country that money meant for Higher Education's Loan Board has been released, Mr. Speaker? And if he has a contrary to that, he should substantiate and table that information before the House. Because it might be good to make quick political gains, but it's not convenient to lie to the House, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order not to lie, but mislead the House, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Eddie, are you able to substantiate the information on help?
Mr. Speaker, I think I've got a responsibility to always bring facts to this House, and also have a responsibility to educate lawyers who do not know numbers. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, you give me until the end of the week, I'll fashion this House with that data, because I'll be talking about so much data here that Cherargei might collapse hearing data, because he doesn't understand these numbers. Senator Cherargei, I want to tell Senator Cherargei through you, Mr. Speaker, that when he was speaking, I was listening. Sometimes we were given 1 mouth and 2 ears so that we listen more. And I listened to these numbers, so let him digest the numbers. If they are contrary, I'll wish him the courage to also be in touch with everything that's happening. Because, Mr. Speaker, for instance, I was going to the issue of the secondary school education, Mr. Speaker. When President Uhuru Kenyatta left this country, Mr. Speaker, the capitation for secondary school education was such that the cost of tuition was 22,000. And by the time the president was leaving, everybody was getting their money. Today, in our economy, Mr. Speaker, we have 4 million students who are secondary school students. He knows very well that the president, for capitation, has only released 65 billion. If you are to divide that by 4 million students, then it means that the students today are only getting 16 billion. That means that every single parent has to pay 6,000 more on that capitation gap that we have. It's a problem, Mr. Speaker, and our children are suffering. Mr. Speaker, the JSS that has been brought today, 95% of the schools that we have in our country, Mr. Speaker, do not have money for infrastructural improvement that can be able to meet the demand of JSS, Mr. Speaker. While parents are struggling to pay for capitation gaps in this country, Mr. Speaker, the same parents are forced, Mr. Speaker, to fundraise to be able to buy desks, to fundraise to be able to build classrooms, to fundraise to buy books for their children, to fundraise, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddy, there is a point of order from Senator Cherargei.
I'm coming back for you. I'm not done with you, Mr. Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, do you listen to the senator threatening the House? Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 105, Mr. Speaker, on responsibility of FAC again. That is why I want to advise Eddy to also be listening more and talking less. Because the area member of parliament where he comes from, under the JSS program, the CDF, the work of the CDF is to improve school infrastructure. And even through, and it is a common knowledge. I thought these are basic things that you should be aware of, Mr. Speaker. Because under the CDF, it is the work of the CDF to improve and develop infrastructure that we have. So is it in order, under Standing Order 105, Mr. Speaker, to mislead the House and say that the president instead, and you know CDF, Mr. Speaker, is given to all legislators, both on the minority and majority side. Unless there are MPs in Migori or where he comes from, which constituent do you come from, Senator Eddy? You should share with the House, Mr. Speaker. It's the infrastructure improvement should be done by CDF, Mr. Speaker. And I'm always willing to mentor him and guide him where he gets the way wrong.
Senator Eddy, I presume you stand guided by Senator Cherargei's statement.
Mr. Speaker, I think that is also in order to sometimes also refer to Standing Order number 126 on what constitutes a frivolous point of order, Mr. Speaker. Because I think Senator Cherargei is just concerned that this factor might be putting his some serious high pedestal on the president, and therefore wants just to come with any point of order. Mr. Speaker, the way CDF works in this country, the CDF has always been limited. Okay? Even right now, Mr. Speaker, the highest a member is getting on CDF is 145 million, Mr. Speaker. With the kind of budget that had been pushed forward to be given to JSS, Mr. Speaker, it is actually about 65%, gap that needs to be put on GSS, Mr. Speaker, which is why, Mr. Speaker, we are trying to advise that...
Senator Methu, what is your point of order?
Thank you very much.
I hope you're holding my time, Mr. Speaker, because this part of the government is now becoming very notorious on this point of order. And they can help the country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would not have wanted to interrupt my good friend, Senator Eddy, and because this is a house of record, and me and him are new senators, so we are learning, I think it is fair to say that he has quoted a standing order that what he has said and what is in the standing orders is different. He has quoted Standing Order 126 that constitutes a frivolous standing order, and what is in 126 is action to be taken on refusal to withdraw. It has nothing to do with a frivolous standing order, point of order. So, for purposes of his knowledge, he can read and quote the right point of order.
Mr. Speaker, there is something called a slip of the tongue. The standing order that I meant was 121 on false standing orders. And I'm glad that the senator who has brought it up is the senator who has also struggled with the slip of tongue all the time. Catching up with English has been very difficult, but now he has acclimatized to the language of the Queen in the House. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to also talk about the issue of borrowing, and Mr. Speaker, I hope you're holding my time, because this point of order have been so many. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about the issue of borrowing, and the way he's struggling with the issue of borrowing, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni Khalwale, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Standing Order number 105 demands that members must take responsibility for the factuality of their statements. On Friday, Mr. Speaker, the PS released 16.9 billion shillings, being money for capitation. Mr. Speaker, this is part of the 89.4 billion shillings, money set aside by the government to address the issue of capitation. The Senator for Nandi has correctly informed the Senator of Migori that CDF has the responsibility to help in upgrading the classrooms. And I put it further to him, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the policy of the President and his government is that CDF creates a partnership with the ministry to address the issue of JSSS. Is he in order to mislead the country and incite members of the unsuspecting members of the public that this government is not able to roll out CBC? When the facts are there, I've told you 89.4. Friday, 16.9 was released. Every member of parliament, not 135, but up to 170 million shillings per constituency. Even if you don't like President Ruto, at least give him credit for what he has done. If you must campaign using facts, then use the correct facts. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker? Can he withdraw and apologize? Failing which, can he then substantiate by tabling alternative figures?
Senator Eddy, what will it be? Are you going to substantiate or correct your statement and your data?
Mr. Speaker, the senator for Kakamega was almost lynched in Malinya Market, where his own mother buys sugar in that market because of the students that are struggling in that area. Mr. Speaker, I'm still responding to this point of order. Just be patient. Mr. Speaker, can I respond to this point of order? Mr. Speaker, and it's not me who said, the Senator for Kakamega said it on this floor.
One moment. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I just want one point of order.
Standing order, Mr. Speaker, Standing Order number 93, or is it, sorry, 98, a point of order is not a privilege. It is a right in our standing orders for the information. Standing Order 103 and 105 and 110, Mr. Speaker, it is not good, and in order to disparage the name of the good senator. Senator Boni Khalwale is a senior politician in this country. Yes. The time he has had in politics is more than your age, Senator Eddy, with all due respect. Mr. Speaker, is it in order? Is it in order? I'm asking my standing, Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the good senator of Migori to disparage the good name of Senator Khalwale? Yet we know in Malinya, the Senator Khalwale enjoys the status of godly-like. In that village, Mr. Speaker, is it in order to say he was lynched? And Mr. Speaker, finally, can he provide an OB to show that that matter was reported in a police station, to show that Senator Khalwale was almost lynched, because that's a serious issue? Can he bring an OB number?
Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker.
Let us give Eddy to give his submissions.
No, I know Mr. Cherargei is trying to help the president by deconstructing my thought processes, but he should also not bring is, Mr. Speaker, the word ignorance is not any bad word to use when somebody doesn't know
Senator
something.
Eddy, if I may guide you, please clarify on the issue of capitation.
I will, Mr. Speaker, but
directed by
my
Senator
character has been assassinated here, Mr. Speaker, because when I talked about the issue of heckling and almost the lynching scenario in Malinya, it is not me who said. It is Senator Boni Alwale who stood in front of this house yesterday and said it. It's not me who said. So it is upon the Senator of Nandi to make sure that he is responsible member who comes to this house and listens to what people say. And in fact, I empathize with Senator Boni Alwale because he was echoed for the first time. He's a fine leader, but he was echoed on the basis that the economic times are hard in this country. He accepted it. And Mr. Speaker, on the issue of capitation, he who alleges, Mr. Speaker, the lawyers in the house will tell you, has got the fundamental responsibility to also be able to give us his evidence. You cannot question my facts and saying that my facts should be tabled in the house, and then you give a counterfacts which haven't tabled in the house. If you feel that my facts are wrong, bring your facts in the house so that we look them against my facts. So, Mr. Speaker, I will bring my facts. I've also stated. So I'll bring my facts in the house and then allow Boni also, Mr. Speaker, I want to make a ruling on this, that Senator Boni Alwale must also bring his facts against my facts in this house. Mr. Speaker, I was talking about the issue of borrowing, and I hope that my time now starts at 15 minutes that I still have. Mr. Speaker, no, because you have been interrupting me, you don't want to listen to the truth. Mr. Speaker, the President talked very squarely about the issue of borrowing, which has been a serious burden to this House and to the nation.
Senator
and Mr. Speaker,
let's allow Senator Eddy to be heard in silence.
Mr. Speaker,
let's hear him first.
Protect me.
What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, protect me.
Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order number 98, a point of order I want to insist is a right and is part of the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, have you heard Eddy saying he who alleges must prove? In the standard of criminal probabilities, you prove beyond reasonable doubt. In standard of civil is based on probabilities, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order for Senator Eddy to misdirect your ruling where you had ruled that he should be the one to substantiate? Now he's moving pattern of substantiating to Senator Kalwale, Mr. Speaker. Is he challenging your ruling, Mr. Speaker? Is it in order to revise your ruling? Does our standing orders and constitution allow us to challenge the Speaker's ruling, yet you have told him to come and substantiate? It's not about Senator Kalwale. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, sir?
Very well, Senator Cherugei. Senator Eddy, you may proceed, but I think you did mention that you're going to substantiate your information and data next week, on Tuesday?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Tuesday next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you happy now? Okay. Now, happily listen to my submissions here. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about borrowing in this country, Mr. Speaker. When President Uhuru Kenyatta left this country, Mr. Speaker, the commercial borrowing interest rate was averaging 14%. As he was doing his submission, Mr. Speaker, last week, the government had issued institutional bonds at 17%. If you issue institutional bond at 17%, Mr. Speaker, there is no way commercial banks will de-risk their capital in this country by giving anything under, Mr. Speaker. Such that this has forced our economy right now that if the banks were to give any loans to any of these small businesses that the government really wants to help, it is now averaging 24%, Mr. Speaker. This is now leading to serious crowding out of businesses. Businesses cannot get a chance to grow, Mr. Speaker, because of this same kind of heavy borrowing we are seeing, Mr. Speaker. When BPS was moved earlier sometimes this year, Mr. Speaker, the deficit that we had as a country, Mr. Speaker, was 700 billion. And I know this because we sit with the senior senator of Kakamega, Boni Alwale, and together with him, we did criticize Mr. Speaker, my time is still not, you're protecting me on the time. Mr. Speaker, we did criticize the issue of high deficit. As we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, the president has borrowed 1.2 trillion, way above the deficit of this country, Mr. Speaker. Then you again stand before the House and say you are going to deal with crowding out. This kind of juxtaposition of a statement from the president, Mr. Speaker, is worrisome. Mr. Speaker, the president talked about the issue of subsidy, which is consistent to the claim that the president had made in the beginning of the year, that it is very important that the country subsidizes production and not consumption, Mr. Speaker. And the issue of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of order, Boni Khalwale?
I'm sorry to appear like I'm interrupting the distinguished senator. Mr. Speaker, he is alleging that the president has borrowed 1.2 trillion shillings. Trillion. He's an economist and he knows what it means by 1.2 trillion. Could he please help this House, carry the public by tabling here evidence showing the 1.2 trillion shillings that the president has borrowed? You can't make here sweeping populist statements that suit the opposition politics as if President William Ruto is an irresponsible leader. When he spoke to this issue, it was clear he only limited himself to the fact that the Eurobond, which was 2 billion shillings, he was going to repay next month at 300 million shillings. So if Eurobond was 2 billion, and he has not talked about any bond, Eurobond, China bond, or whatever bond, was 2 billion, about 1.2 trillion. If you must lie, lie with facts. Lie reasonably. Lie with a degree of intelligence.
Point of order on who? Senator Muma.
Honorable Speaker, allow me to raise a point of order on the process that's going on. Mr. Speaker, I feel the use of point of orders to disrupt needs to be ruled upon. Mr. Speaker, there are members in this House who are actually, through the point of order, violating Standing Order number 97, getting to speak more than once on this issue by calling on points of orders and then proceeding to seem to discuss on issues that people have raised. Mr. Speaker, we need to stop that.
Senator Muma, the point of order that you've cited says no senator shall speak more than once to a question. It does not refer to more than once in a point of order. Point of order, any senator may raise a point of order at any time during a member's speech. So your point of order does not stand. Senator Eddy, there's the issue that Senator Boni Khalwale has raised in proving substantiating the fact that the president has borrowed 1.2 trillion. Can you respond to that and let us know if you're able to substantiate it, and will you table it with the other data?
Mr. Speaker, a senior member of this House questioning my facts, and in questioning my facts, goes ahead and says that this country has got a Eurobond worth 2 billion, and then is challenging me to prove numbers. Seriously, Mr. Speaker? Seriously? That Honorable Boni Khalwale, Senator of Kakamega,
yes,
Mr. Speaker, even before the point of order, Mr. Speaker, there is another point of order. Was this a strategy from the government side so that they can run away from my facts and from telling them what Kenyans are feeling today?
Senator,
you know,
Senator Eddy. Order, Senator Eddy. Senator Eddy, order. Eddy. What's your point of order, Senator Cheptumo?
So, Speaker, you know I rarely interrupt members. I only do so when it is absolutely necessary. Mr. Speaker, you gave some directions, very clear, for Senator Fumikori to be able to explain his position. Instead of doing so, Mr. Speaker, is again going ahead to look like challenging your decision. Mr. Speaker, I think it is only fair. This is a house of rules, of order, of record. Whoever alleges, Mr. Speaker, and I think that is what Honorable Kalwal was talking to, that proves that what you are talking about, you have the facts. And Mr. Speaker, I think already you've told him to be able to, he is able to do that, I think next week or something, from the other issues you have raised. If he doesn't have the facts now, he can be given time. But Mr. Speaker, we are losing time. I want to speak to this motion and many other members, Mr. Speaker. I think, Mr. Speaker, as much as we have that right under the standing orders, I think also we should spend our time optimally so that we move forward. But my colleague here should be able, Mr. Speaker, to explain his position, not only alleging, but able to prove what he's saying.
Senator Cheptumo, I think if you had given him time, he would have probably responded. He was just making his introductory remarks. So let us give him time, and we see if he's going to substantiate or not. Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, where Senator Boni Alwale feels like my fact is wrong against his facts, I promise that next week I will avail it in the House. Is that satisfactory? So that you can rule on this so I can finish my presentation. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President did talk very heavily on the issue of farm input. That's what I was talking about, Mr. Speaker. And the concept has always been that, and the argument has always been that you subsidize production and not consumption, Mr. Speaker, which is probably a brilliant concept. But Mr. Speaker, the reality is this. When you say that you have subsidized fertilizer, such that fertilizer prices have come from 6,500 to 2,500, which is a fact, Mr. Speaker, I have called everywhere in Migori County. There is nowhere that fertilizer goes for 2,500. And I'll tell you the reason why, Bonnie. Number two, Mr. Speaker, we had Senate Mashinani in Turkana. When you go to Turkana, we went to a place called Kitili in irrigation mines, in irrigation farms. There is nowhere among those farmers are getting fertilizer for 2,500. And the reason is very simple, Bonnie. When you decide to say that you're subsidizing fertilizer, and constantly the cost of petrol and fuel keeps on going higher, the other inputs get affected, including the cost of vehicles that are supposed to go to a place like Lokicha to take that fertilizer down there. That is why there is an increased price of fertilizers, despite the fact that you claim subsidy, Mr. Speaker. And in any case, fertilizer is not the only subsidized input that the country needs, Mr. Speaker. The people from the lake where I come from, the people of Migori, the people of Siaya, the people of Homa Bay, are serious fish farmers, Mr. Speaker. When you put something like cost of fuel to be very high, it affects them directly, Mr. Speaker. As we speak now, Mr. Speaker, the shilling is extremely performing poorly against other currencies, Mr. Speaker. As we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, Uganda has just decided to buy its oil directly and not through Kenya, Mr. Speaker. When Uhuru Kenyatta was leaving, Mr. Speaker, the Kenya shillings was trading at 32 shillings against the Ugandan shillings. Right now, it is 25 shillings, Mr. Speaker. The Tanzanian shillings is now stronger than it was when Uhuru Kenyatta was leaving, Mr. Speaker. And in any case, Boni Alwale wants to know that the people who grow tea in this country, today the auctioning of tea has now shifted to Tanzania instead of what was happening in Mombasa. Mr. Speaker, the economy is doing bad. And for the purposes of the one man who believes in God, President Ruto, and his troops like Senator Boni Alwale, the book of John, chapter 21, verse 3, says that When Jesus Christ had been arrested, crucified, and died, his disciples felt broken. They felt broken because they had nothing to do, nothing else to do. They went back to fish. And in the third day when Jesus arose from the dead, he came back and told them, when you are most broken, that is when God is near you. The people of Kenya today, we are telling you, Ruto has broken our spirits. Ruto has broken the future of our children. President Ruto has broken the hopes and the dreams of our people. And I can tell you that even if you insist through these speeches and this frivolous point of orders, Mr. Speaker, the country will move forward because now as a people, our hands is in our Lord Jesus Christ.
Senator
Our hands
Cheptumo.
is in the hand of God.
Eddie, Senator Cheptumo, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, is the member really debating this statement? He is converting, Mr. Speaker, this House to a political rally. Mr. Speaker, this statement is a clear expression of the plans that the head of state has for this country. And Mr. Speaker, for the member to appear to dismiss every proposal, every statement in this statement, Mr. Speaker, is unfair, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of debate. Let us be objective in our discussion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think my colleague is overstepping Mr. Speaker, because
Senator Cheptumo,
he is attacking the person of the president, Mr. Speaker.
What standing order are you standing
Mr. Speaker,
on?
I've said what I've said.
Senator Mungatana, what's your point of order?
Speaker, I'm standing on standing order number 105. I'm asking the honorable senator from Migori, who is a very good and upcoming senator. When he generalizes and says Ruto has, first of all, is it the president or who is he talking about? When he says he has broken this dream of the child, this dream of the, is it in order, Mr. Speaker, to make such sweeping allegations without a substantive, first of all, discussing the head of state substantive motion? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, to say that you have broken a dream, you have to give us the specific dream that has been broken, Mr. Speaker. What was the dream of the fisherman that you said? Was he expecting to get 10 kilograms or what? And how was that dream broken? How is Ruto in it? Mr. Speaker, I think the honorable senator from Migori must, tone down, come to the mode of debate and move away from the politics so that we can hear, because we actually want to encourage you in your growth, by the way, Senator Eddie. We have a lot of respect for you. But don't veer off into the politics. Stick to the issue so that we can hear you, Mr. Speaker. Is he in order?
Senator Eddie, when you were making your submission, you referred to Ruto. Is your point against Ruto as a person or Ruto the president? Because you did not refer to him as the president.
Mr. Speaker, I did refer to President Ruto, and I'm addressing the presidential speech. Is that okay? Can I conclude?
On the point of order raised by Senator Mungatana, although I'm not sure if it actually needs substantiating. But I think at this point I will allow you to finish your submission.
Mr. Speaker,
you only have 2 minutes.
I have no problem responding to this in the context of this speech. The speech includes the president's investment on what we call ASLA funds. The reason why I say there are broken dreams that are suffering today, Mr. Speaker, for you to qualify for ASLA fund as a border person, you can only get up to 1,000 bob. And for you to qualify for bigger chunks of money, Mr. Speaker, for borders in this country, for even them to get 4,000, it takes them about an average of 7 months to qualify for that. As I speak to you, Senator of Tana River, the boda bodas when Uhuru Kenyatta was living here, was leaving office, TVS model of boda boda that is commonly used in this country was going for 128,000 Kenya shillings. Right now, it is going for 168,000 Kenya shillings in the market. Go and check. Now, for boda bodas to be able to get that boda boda, they are required to give 20,000 to Watu Credit, and then another 40,000 for processing of different things. The remaining is all debt. That means that boda boda needs a debt of 150,000, my brother, Senator Mungatana. If in Hustler Fund, this boda boda person can only borrow 1,000, how is this person's dream possible? It's not possible.
Your time is up. Your time is up. We added your time. We did. We've been stopping your clock, and I actually added you 1 more minute. Okay, 2 minutes to conclude.
So 2 minutes to conclude. Yeah. So what I was saying, my brothers and sisters, is that even hustler funds today, the biggest borrowing place for hustlers in this country is no longer the hustler fund. It is the Mutua kiosk, because in the morning, they have to borrow to consume. They go in the morning to borrow for mayai. They go in the morning to borrow and write in that book, mama wa kiosk, give me sugar, give me maziwa. You see, this is the endless problem that we have. If you're going to have a hustler fund, make it possible for people to borrow for assets that can allow them to do business. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, we have got what I would call personally housing tax. Mr. Speaker, for these hustlers, our mothers in the villages, our people in Kibera, our people in Mathare, for them, their pension scheme has never been the issue of being able to keep on putting money so that they buy houses. Their pension scheme is their children. These mothers and these men always educate their children so that when their children get education, they can buy them a house. In fact, there are a number of people in this house who today are buying their parents' houses, including me. I'm building my father's house today. If you make it impossible for me to do business in this country, impossible for me to borrow, impossible for me to survive, I cannot be able to take my kid to school as a mother in Kibera. I cannot be able to take my kid to school as a person in Mathare. You make it impossible for me to dream. You make it impossible for me to have hope in this country. Please go back to the basics that you promised on the hustler economy and make it possible for hustlers to thrive in this country. Otherwise, we continue talking about these big dreams, and the president continues using 500 million for travels everywhere, money that could be used to give hustlers to buy boda bodas, money that could be used to give hustlers to buy kokoteni, money that could be used to give hustlers money to be able to buy washing machines and be able to build their dreams.
What is your point of order, Senator Mungatana?
Is the honorable senator from Migori in order to insinuate that President Ruto is spending 500 million on travels when we went to Kirwa in what the place is called, in Kwale, Ukwiru in Kwale. And because of the negotiations that were done, the whole project of electrification was 1.2 billion, Mr. Speaker, and the government of Kenya only contributed 56 million. Is he in order to say that usage of these travels is a waste of money? Is he in order to insinuate that? He can't answer. His time is over, Mr. Speaker.
No, Senator Eddy, you don't have to answer. That is your opinion. You might take a seat. Senator Wamatinga Wahome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Indeed, we did listen to the presidential speech. It is quite astonishing, Mr. Speaker, that some senators who were supposed to have sat there and listened to the presidential speech, it's either their ears had taken leave or they are suffering from a selective amnesia. Mr. Speaker, sir, the president did pronounce himself quite clearly that the Hustler Fund is being stocked up so that we can even move to asset financing. Mr. Speaker, sir, the president gave an example of a tuk-tuk rider in Mombasa whom he had personally spoken to, and who expressed his desire to have the Hustler Fund modified in a way that it can accommodate asset financing. Mr. Speaker, sir, when you listen to senators here, Mr. Speaker, make comment and allude to the fact that it should move to that direction, it is either, Mr. Speaker, they were not pleasant or they are suffering from selective amnesia. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is not lost to us that the President did pronounce himself to the policies, to the measurements, and to the adjustments that have taken place in the agricultural sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, you might hear one senator speak about missing fertilizer, but the problem is, Mr. Speaker, some of these senators speaking here, they never go home, so they will never know what is available at home. Mr. Speaker, sir, we were in Turkana, yes. We went to Katilu Irrigation Project, yes. And we did speak to National Irrigation Authority, and they did indicate, yes, this fertilizer will be made available to the farmers in Turkana. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to confirm to you that after the structural adjustment programs of the 1980s that ensured that destroyed the agricultural sector in Kenya, the President and his cabinet is on the right path to restoring this. Just the other day, Mr. Speaker, sir, after having toiled for so long to change the plight of coffee farmers, we were able to introduce a pricing and a kind of advance advance of 300 shillings, something that has remained elusive for the last 20 years, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have seen that the government, in its effort to reform the coffee sector, the agricultural sector, has not only introduced measures. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the Agricultural Committee in which I sit in, we have 9 bills, Mr. Speaker, 9 bills, all of them concerning reforms in the agricultural sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, what has been lacking in this country is the political goodwill to make changes that will benefit Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, sir, in this regime, and I would want to quote the words of the President, it is possible for us to change the fate of Kenyans and especially the farmers in our lifetime. Mr. Speaker, sir, in just under 1 year, Mr. Speaker, the current regime, the Kenya Kwanza government, has been able to employ over 56,000 teachers, Mr. Speaker, sir. This has never happened in the history of this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, we saw the standardization, the introduction of ICT hubs in all ward levels in this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is going to be a major milestone, a major achievement, and it is quite interesting that the President has been able, Mr. Speaker, sir, to ensure that we have a constant and constant design for all the ICTs hub so that we can have uniformity, we can have control of...
Senator Eddy? What is your point of order, Senator Eddy?
Mr. Speaker, I stand under point of order number 105 because I've been following keenly the recruitment of teachers in this country, with the latest being 30,000 recruitments. Is it in order for the senator of Nyeri to mislead this House that the President has employed over 56,000 teachers, Mr. Speaker? And in any case, perhaps it should take the courage of even telling us those 56,000 teachers, Mr. Speaker, which counties are they from? Which tribes are they from? Because when you talk about employment of people in this country, for young people who cannot be able to make money in this country, Mr. Speaker, these are the opportunities that they get. He should tell us what is the breakdown if he truly knows that this has been a fair game, Mr. Speaker. And let him not mislead the House that is over 56,000, Mr. Speaker.
Senator...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The figures and the data can be accessed through the website of Teachers Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, sir, just like those senators claiming that fertilizers have not gotten their county because they never get to go to their counties. And Mr. Speaker, sir, because of our generosity, we as senators, the senior senators, have come together and have agreed. Those senators who are struggling to get a landing in their homes because of the lack of spouses, we are going to arrange for them, they get the spouses so that they can be able to go back home and they can be able to tell this House what is happening back home. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is in the TSC. I do not need to do any research, Mr. Speaker. I do not need to.
Senator Wahome, order before I give you a point of order. Senator Wahome, Senator Eddy stood on a point of order to request that you substantiate the figure of numbers of teachers that were employed. Are you going to be able to table that to the floor of the House?
Mr. Speaker, sir, that is general knowledge. I would be more than happy to table, broken down into how many have been recruited each and every county.
By
But
when?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we must say it again and again.
Senator
Let
Wahome.
us fellow senators take time when we have recess to go back home so that we really know what is happening
Senator-
there. Mr. Speaker, sir, those who've come and gotten houses in near Nairobi, and they only go after the election, and the only thing they can do is throw stones
Senator-
and demonstrate.
Senator-
Mr.
Eddie, I think Senator Mumo was before you. Okay. Senator Eddie, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I am raising understanding order number 101. 4. No senator shall impute improper motive to any other senator or to a member of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, when I stood in front of this House, I think I was the most disrupted by point of orders from the majority side. But at no point did I impute any improper motive on any senators, because we are honorable members, because I know the struggles we go through to be elected or selected to be in this House, because I know our commitment to the people of Kenya and to our constituents. Mr. Speaker, every single weekend, I go to my constituency, driving almost 600 kilometers, all the way to Masangora and Kuria, Mr. Speaker, to go and see my people, to go and talk to my people, to go and listen to their problem. Is it in order for a senior senator, who also purports to be an engineer, Mr. Speaker, even if he's an engineer of making phones, he's an engineer, Mr. Speaker, is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for him to impute that I don't go to my constituency, or even a member of any other part of this county, Mr. Speaker, not going to their constituency, Mr. Speaker? This is not fair, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, you must restrict him to the debate and withdraw and apologize to me personally and to all other senators that he has been imputing this motive on.
Senator Muma, what is your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, my point of order is on Standing Order 105. You did ask the Speaker to actually undertake to substantiate the information as provided. But what he's doing is referring us to a website. Can you call him to order? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is he in order to imply that one has to be married in order to be in this House?
Senator Wahome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wahome, before you proceed,
Yes.
are you going to withdraw and apologize your statement on senators not going to their constituencies? And also on the point of order where you referred to senators who do not have spouses, that you shall assist them in providing them.
Speaker, sir, I'm an African, and I think it is a duty of the elders to be able to assist the younger ones who are not able to get spouses. I'll be doing my African duty. Therefore, I do not need to apologize on that one. I think I'll be doing.
What is your point of order, Senator Eddie?
Mr. Speaker, I am speaking as a youth in this country, okay? Still under Standing Order number 101. This House, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, must stop being ageist. This House, Mr. Speaker, must stop being chauvinistic. This House, Mr. Speaker, must stop looking at people of disability as not enough. This is why senators like Wamatinga, Mr. Speaker, was disparaging a woman governor the other day here, because constantly you see this House as a house of seniors, as a house of superiors, as a house of certain caliber of people. We are here by right, and the young people of this country elected me, married or not, they elected me to belong to this House. You're not going to continue with this ageist, this chauvinistic, this misogynistic kind of attitude in this House. And Mr. Speaker, on this, I don't need his apology, because we are young people of this country, and we belong here, and we're going to contribute to this debate, whether you like it or not. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator.
the role of an African elder still remains standing. Mr. Speaker, sir, why the African society has been over years been known to move upright, it's because before even the coming of the modern education, we were passing our knowledge orally from one generation to the next one. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is an open secret that many communities, including in Kenya, the guidance of the elders to the younger ones cannot be equated to anything, Mr. Speaker. There's nothing to withdraw, that there is nothing to apologize. It's the setup of Africans. That's what makes us this very, very strong, even in the adversity that we confront as a continent. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, what we are discussing today is the presidential speech. Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, through the Speaker.
Senator Asige, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I would really encourage, and I'm quite disappointed with the line of debate that is being taken right now, because it has nothing to do with the address. We're supposed to be talking about the state of the nation, not the state of single or married young people in Kenya. That is another debate for another day. And I am standing on a 101. I feel extremely offended because this line of language is continuing, and I would urge you, Speaker, kindly, if you could just rule if the senator is in order to continue in this manner, because it is very offensive, not just to people in this house, but people who are listening. And even if it's his opinion, Speaker, that the elders are here to do 1, 2, or 3, that has nothing to do with the state of the nation address. So kindly rule him out of order.
Senator Wahome, I would urge you to continue with your submission on the state of the nation and avoid attracting too much points of orders.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm well guided. Some things will never change no matter how much or how little you say them. Mr. Speaker, sir,
proceed with your submission.
To the state of the nation. Going back to the state of the nation, Mr. Speaker, sir, I was very impressed that the president did outline the number of Kenyans that he called. A president calling a farmer in Trans Nzoia, the president calling a boda rider in Mombasa. Mr. Speaker, this is a clear demonstration that the president of this country cares about the Kenyans, that he minds going collecting views of Kenyans, and most importantly, looking at how they would want things done. Mr. Speaker, sir, whoever cared to listen to the speech of the president heard and is aware that he has a plan for this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, he outlined a loan that was taken the Eurobond, $200 billion, that everybody thought that Kenya would not be able to pay. He outlined that the country is going to be able to honor that before time. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a commitment that the president, in his capacity as the executive head in this country, is committed to honor for international obligations, is committed to see that the economy of Kenya is in the path of recovery, but most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that he is prepared to take everybody on board towards this path of recovery. What other people would not want to hear, Mr. Speaker, sir? And I'll quote a saying that comes from my community. When somebody does not like you, even when you're in a swimming pool, he'll tell you you're blowing a lot of dust. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know the commitment of the president from maintaining this economy. We know the commitment of the president to guide the farmers towards the path of recovery. We know the commitment of the president to ensure that the dignity of Kenyans is restored, not by making them beggars, Mr. Speaker, sir, but by ensuring that they join hands into the economic path of recovery. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is not an open secret that we can recover and we will recover because the president has the utmost political goodwill to ensure that this country is in the path of recovery. As I sit down, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would urge my colleagues to look at it openly. It does not matter. 2027 is coming. You'll challenge us on what we've been able to perform. 2032 is coming, Mr. Speaker. They'll challenge us in terms of what we've been able to achieve. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I sit down, I want to tell my fellow senators, let us close ranks. Let us agree that it is our obligation to move this country forward. Eddie, the senator from Migori, he is my brother, my younger brother. It is my obligation, Mr. Speaker, sir, to guide him into the right path. And Mr. Speaker, sir, if I step on the long toes, it is not because I don't like him. It is because I like him so much. That is why I'll repeatedly tell him again and again.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. As I rise to contribute to the President's speech, I want to remind Senator, my senior Senator Wamatinga, that just yesterday in the morning, I came from Homa Bay County. And that is a demonstration that not only the elected senators go back to their constituents, but all as leaders in the Senate go back to our constituencies, and we are able to pick up issues from there. And Honorable Speaker, as I start my presentation, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to start on the note that the cost of living continues to escalate, and just to inform all of us that Kenyans are stretched to the limit, and they keep on getting stretched, and this must be attended to. Just this morning, Honorable Speaker, I attended to Mass, and in that Mass, Honorable Speaker, there was a wise reading from the
Senator
Book of
Boni
Wisdom.
Kalwale, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, Senator Beatrice has informed the House that every weekend she goes back to her county. Her county. Mr. Speaker, Senator Beatrice is a nominated senator. Can she tell us, standing order number 105, when we can't be repeating the obvious, can she clarify which county she represents in this Senate?
Senator Boni Kalwale, Senator Boni Kalwale, with all due respect, you're a senior member, and I would never want to correct you. But Senator Beatrice Akinyi comes from a county, whether if she's nominated or not. So she was referring to her home county. That's what she said. She said she came yesterday from her home county. So I overruled that. You can proceed, Senator Beatrice.
Us continue to hear things they want to hear when others speak.
Point of order on who? Beatrice just started speaking with 2 words. Okay, what's your point of order, Senator Eddy?
Mr. Speaker, you know how much I respect your chair. And you know how much I've been passionate about some of the rulings that you make. And my intention has never been, and will never be, and it's not even now, going to question your ruling. But Mr. Speaker, standing order number 121, goes on knowingly raising a false point of order, 1. And then standing order number 122, it further strengthens that point of order, C. Says false to declare personal interest in some matters and persistently making serious allegations, and then goes all the way to 122J. Mr. Speaker, the senator for Kakamega is constantly raising frivolous point of orders, Mr. Speaker. And this House, Mr. Speaker, has declared on his standing orders that this constitutes grossly disorderly conduct. Mr. Speaker, I wonder why Senator Boni Kalwale is not thrown out of this House for grossly being disorderly, Mr. Speaker. Because you cannot stand on a point of order to disparage nominated members and even question them, in almost declaring them countyless, stateless, because under Article 6 of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, under Article 6 of our Constitution, this country is divided into counties. The moment you have declared a member of this House countyless, you are declaring them stateless, Mr. Speaker. Is this in order, Mr. Speaker, in this House? How are we degenerating to something else, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I beseech you that today, Mr. Boni Kalwale, Senator of Kakamega, is not in his best element. He is probably under the affluence of something else. Mr. Speaker, please find him disorderly and throw him out of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Beatrice, one moment. Senator Eddy, as much as you started your statement very well by saying you respect the chair, I also respect you, Senator Eddy. But on this particular point of order that you've just lamented here today, you are the one who's actually out of order. And I could actually find you grossly out of order, because I had already made a ruling on the point of order that Senator Boni Khalwale, and I had closed that matter, and by you standing on the same point of order, you are actually trying to reopen a matter which has already been ruled on. So I caution you, Senator Eddy. Senator Beatrice, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also request Senator Eddy to bear with Senior Senator Boni Khalwale. Remember, by his own admission yesterday, he was appalled that for the first time he was heckled in his village. So that must have caused him a bit of discomfort. But Honorable Speaker, to also put it straight to this House, I come from a ward called Kosewe, Kanyamwa Kosewe ward, in a sub-county called Ndewa sub-county, right in Homa Bay County. And that record about me is not about to change, Honorable Speaker. So when I go to Homa Bay County as my home county, I'm rightly there. But Honorable Speaker, I'm also an officially a delegate of Homa Bay County, as spelled out and written and recorded by Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang. So Honorable Speaker, as I begin to make my contribution to the presidential speech, this morning, Honorable Speaker, I was in Mass, and in that there was a reading from the Book of Wisdom. And it said, "Listen, O kings, that you may learn wisdom." And Honorable Speaker, one wise man I like listening to often says that if you want to succeed, listen to the don't listen to the people with the answers. Listen to the people with the questions. And Honorable Speaker, these are part of my contribution, is part of the people with the questions. Honorable Speaker, as I contribute to the President's speech, I would like that the head of state takes note of the following items in my checklist. Honorable Speaker, you notice that we've had a countrywide power outage. The longest blackout that happened in this county was in August this year for over 20 hours, Honorable Speaker. And this points to the economy, and this points to the image that as a county we paint out. Just last Saturday, Honorable Speaker, there was another blackout from 8 p.m. till latest midnight. Honorable Speaker, we have had such national power blackouts in the last few months, and this must be taken care of, Honorable Speaker, because power points to our economy, and as I've said, it also points to the image. Something but rattles me, Honorable Speaker, when we talk about this national power blackout. Does it point to a planning problem, to a lack of planning, or what is it trying to show? Honorable Speaker, just today, there's going to be a treaty of the European Union and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and the Pacific states in Brussels. And our state, Kenya, is supposed to be a signatory to this treaty. Honorable Speaker, this country holds the family in highest esteem. The family is the natural unit of society that must be protected by both the society and the state, Honorable Speaker. But in this treaty that Kenya is supposed to be signing today, all the way in Brussels, it has connotations of sexual and reproductive health rights that include, Honorable Speaker, abortion. It includes homosexuality. It includes issues of sex work. And Honorable Speaker, it is a pity that if this is signed, children are going to be left to decide their sex. Honorable Speaker, children biologically when they are born, and Senator Khalwale is a gynecologist, we all know that the sex of a child is determined physically at birth. But there is this proposition that children should be left without determining their sex, without spelling out their sex, so that in future as they grow up, they have a choice to decide whether they are female or male. And today, as I speak, this treaty is supposed to be signed in Brussels. Honorable Speaker, in guiding the family, in protecting our family values, these are some of the issues that the head of state and the leadership of our country should look into. Honorable Speaker, in the President's speech, there was also the issue of employment, and all of us know the state of unemployment that there is in the country. There was reference to inclusivity.
Senator Beatrice, when this debate resumes, you'll have a balance of 7 minutes. And on next Wednesday, we will prioritize the question and answers to be addressed to CS Murkomen. I think that will be next week, Wednesday morning. Honorable Senators, it is now 1 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 15th November 2023 at 2:30 p.m.
Mtazamaji, kikao cha asubuhi cha bunge la Seneti kimefikia tamati. Nikirejelea tu mawili matatu kuhusu yaliyojiri, Spika wa muda Wakili Sigei ndiye alianzisha na kuendesha kikao. Waziri wa Utalii Dr. Alfred Mutua alifika mbele ya bunge la Seneti. Alikabiliana na maswali kutoka kwa Seneta wa Matinga ambaye aliuliza swali kwa niaba ya Seneta Murango. Maswali hayo yalihusu sana ongezeko la visa vya wanyamapori ambao wanahitilafiana sana na maisha ya binadamu katika eneo bunge la Kirinyaga ya Kati. Dr. Mutua alieleza kwamba tatizo hili linatokana na kuharibiwa kwa ua la stima ambalo limezunguka msitu wa Mlima Kenya. Hata hivyo, alihakikishia Seneta Murango kwamba wizara yake imekwisha tenga fedha za kurekebisha ua hilo. Maswali ya ziada yalitoka kwa Seneta Wambua wa Kitui, Seneta Munyi Mundigi wa Embu, Seneta Dulu wa Isiolo, Seneta Dr. Halware wa Kakamega, Seneta Muma na Seneta Cheptumo. Mtazamaji, kati ya mawaziri wanne ambao walitarajiwa kufika, mmoja pekee, Dr. Alfred Mutua, ndiye alifika. Sasa kulikuwa na kizaazaa kidogo wakati ambapo Seneta Dr. Halware alitaka kujua ni kwa nini waziri wa barabara na usafiri Mheshimiwa Murkomen hakufika. Seneta Cherargei na maseneta wengine walionekana kughadhabishwa sana na kutoonekana kwa waziri Murkomen. Seneta Mungatana hata akasema kwamba alikuwa anamsubiri waziri Murkomen kwa hamu na gamu ili ajieleze kwa kina kuhusu paa linalovuja katika uwanja wa ndege wa kimataifa wa Jomo Kenyatta. Hata hivyo, Spika wa muda Wakili Sigei alitoa mwelekeo na kikao kikaendelea. Seneta Chute akaja na kueleza kwa kina kamati ya muda kuhusu kufidiwa kwa waathiriwa wa mkasa wa bomu wa mwaka wa 1998. Baada ya hapo, bunge la Seneti lilirejelea hoja ya mjadala wa hotuba ya rais. Maseneta kadha wa kadha wakachangia kwa mapana na marefu. Kisha hapo ndipo kikao kikakamilikia. Aliyetamatisha kikao ni Spika wa muda Seneta Abdul Haji. Mtazamaji, ulipitwa? Iwapo ulipitwa na yaliyojiri katika kikao hiki, tafadhali fanya hima utazame kwa tovuti ya YouTube. Unaweza pia kupata nakala ya Hansard kutoka kwa tovuti ya bunge la Kenya www.parliament.go.ke. Kumbuka matangazo haya ya moja kwa moja yanaletwa kwako na kitengo cha utangazaji cha bunge nchini chini ya ushirikiano na KBC Channel 1. Kwa sasa sina la ziada. Jina langu ni Vusaka Litu, ila na kuomba usikose kikao cha alasiri kuanzia saa 8:30. Kwa heri kwa sasa.